All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Brodhead. We have a very special guest with us today who I'm very excited to talk more with. He falls into the marketing category of types of guests that we have, but he's also deeply entrenched in film. So we have that in common, though he's more entrenched than I am, unfortunately, for now. So Jim Dubensky. Jim, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Hey, yeah, great to meet you, Chris, and continue our conversations. I am a bit of a hybrid at this point in my life where I am a unscripted TV showrunner, and I've in the past year really have taken that skill set over into the marketing space because the world is changing, right? People are really interacting with videos. TikTok is really pushing that forward, right? People aren't really going on their, especially younger people, they're not going on their Google to look for something. They're really interacting with these videos and connecting with businesses,
Mm-hmm.
brand in a whole different way. And it's really exciting because my background has always been in content, right? I studied theater and acting and moved to New York and did stand up and had my own sketch comedy troupe, and then was kind of quote unquote discovered for my writing by a marketing firm that was doing interactive advertising and to do stuff with brands. So I kind of could take that skill set and create stuff for Coca-Cola and New Line Cinema and stuff. And then made my way to LA and again kind of did the scripted side, was in the writer's room on some sitcoms and sold some pilots. And that just took me over to unscripted, which again, you're kind of like a lot of the tools you might use in marketing are the same tools you use in unscripted, right? Where you're like, what is your act break, right? You might have not the greatest show ever, but if you can make great act breaks and great act outs, you can hook that audience, right? So it's a longer form version of what everybody's doing right now on TikTok. So that's kind of my journey to where I am now. It's kind of, I've picked these pieces of what I've learned and brought them forward to wherever the world is going.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What is your current thoughts on the state of the kind of filmmaking, long form TV industry?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think why it feel for me, my take, right, is that everything is unsettled because mom and dad are unsettled, and mom and dad are the networks, mom and dad are the big conglomerate media companies, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
Netflix has kind of been this disruptor, and now they're getting more solid, but Netflix whole model is based on still disruption, right? So they're buying a format from Germany, keeping it in Germany. So that's not going to bring work to Los Angeles, and that's not going to create a writer's room, and they're going to have less episodes. So, you had this whole model around a full season of television. We have a writing staff for 24 episodes. We're going to do Law and Order SVU all season. Well, now they're going to do 8. It's going to be in a different country. The head writer is going to write half of those. So now all of a sudden your writer's room has gone from 12 to 2, right? So now you have younger people trying to break in and figure out how to tell stories that don't have access. So
Mm.
where is it going to go? I don't know, right? I think mom and dad are going to figure it out in their own way. But it's, what's fascinating is Roku, who used to just be the set box thing, has a huge channel, and people are like going like, hey, I sold a show to Roku because they have a captive audience. And now,
Mm.
and Tubi, which is, they have the Super Bowl on Tubi, which is free, right? So there's all these disruptors, and it's going to continue that way, I would say, for several more years, right? And so
Mhm.
then where does that leave people trying to work in the industry? Is there's less work, you have to be more inventive, right? There's a lot of people. And then another thing that's happening is brands, right? And this goes back into the marketing, right? I have was up for a show that didn't happen, but Budweiser had launched a studio to make content and they wanted to do a show, right? Companies like Samsung, right? Because they're like Roku. They have all these set boxes. They're sitting in your home. So why shouldn't Samsung have a video channel?
Mhm.
So the disruption have put us in this odd place of like we're almost in an internet age of a kind where new things are happening. If you can find a new thing, you're probably safer. Now, obviously, if you're a lawyer and you know Dick Wolf and you've worked on those shows, that world still exists. So that world's never going to go away. There is the old school world, but it's shrunk. So if you're breaking in, you're, just like when now with AI, right? AI is this giant disruptor. He's like, how do I get in on AI? I think young people or people breaking into the industry should be thinking this is a disruptor time for TV and film, not how do I get into that old school building that
Mhm.
my, people were getting into before. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. So, um, it, by the time the dust settles on this and there
Yeah.
are more opportunities to break in, will those be taken by AI?
Ah, what I can see, who knows, right? But
Yeah.
here's what I can say a couple things to it is this is just me as a human and somebody who's worked in unscripted TV, right? Or what was called reality TV. And again, going into what is happening now, people they're on TikTok and they're happy to watch clips of shows. They're happy to watch celebrities or brands, but they're also connecting with real people. And that kind of started way back in the early 2000s with Survivor, where it was like, oh, I'm watching these real people out in the jungle competing against each other. And then The Bachelor, you're like, oh, this isn't a romantic movie. I'm watching real people date. So I think humans' appetite will always be to connect with other humans. So even if AI is going to disrupt the industry in a writer's room, half of the writer's room is AI, you're still going to want to watch actors, right? I'm not going to want to watch animation of an AI of a fake human because what
Mhm.
people like about whether it's George Clooney or Sandra Bullock in the scripted side, or it's all of the reality sides. They want to not only see their content, they want to know them in the real world. Oh my God, George Clooney lives at Lake Como. So I think we're protected when it comes to content in and of itself, because I don't see us only watching animation because that's all CGI that's all AI can ever create, right? It will always be a fake human. And I don't think we want that, right? Just like a cooking show. AI made you a cooking show. Here's the best looking hot dog you could never eat, eaten by a fake human. Like, what? I'm not watching that. Like, now, if AI makes the best animated Marvel movie of all time and the explosions, it's like four-dimensional, it blows my mind. I'll watch that too. Like, I'm not saying it won't take jobs,
Mhm.
but does that make sense? Like, I just think it's going to disrupt the rooms of people creating it. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, I don't think it's going to take away what's in front of the camera and what I'm watching at home.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. For the most part, I think. Do you think the studios think that they will just need drastically less writers or no writers, or what is kind of their short-term end game here?
Yeah, I don't think, you know, AI is great. Like if say you're I could be guessing here because I don't really know. The execs I know don't really talk about like the replacement of writers, even if maybe secretly they're thinking it. Is what AI can do really well is it's a great writer's assistant. It's a great
Mhm.
researcher, right? It's a
Mhm.
great, you have really, and as people are learning more about AI, the stronger the prompts, the better the results, right? If you're like, hey, come up with a fun script, it's not going to be great. But if you're like, hey, I'm working on a thing about Napoleon and I want to focus on this time period of his life, working as a writer, give me a core moment in these 2 years of Napoleon's life that would be a great thing for me to write about. All of a sudden,
Mhm.
it's as if you were sitting next to another human brainstorming.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, are the studios going to trust AI to be the pure shepherd of their content? And I think not, right? I think they're going to value a Sorkin, a Soderbergh, right? They're going to value the one human voice. What it's going to hurt is, does that one human that used to have 12 people around them need those 12 people anymore? Right? Do they need 4 people? And the same with internally with the studios. Do you need 6 development execs, or do you need 2 great ones who are really good with AI?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think a lot of people are afraid of AI and they complain
Yeah.
about it because they think, the studios, when given the option, typically choose the worst of all possible choices.
Right, of
It
course.
it just seems. But then you watch a movie that supposedly had a budget of $320 million on Netflix, The Electric State, and you're like,
Sure.
why couldn't they use ChatGPT to write this? This is absolute atrocity. Like just one pass through ChatGPT probably could have like made that watchable.
That funny. Yeah. I mean, I haven't watched it yet, but it's been really hammered. I have a 15-year-old son, and we went and saw like the anti version of that. We went and saw Mickey 17,
Oh yeah, I
right?
saw that as well.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like a movie that you could have run it through ChatGPT to give it notes, and it wouldn't have been better because there was something very human in how it was told. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
cookie cutter, and there were hanging threads and in a good way. Um, so just like I think we have an eye where we still, at some point when you're watching a commercial, ChatGPT and AI will make a commercial look as good as the most beautiful thing we've ever shot. And our eye might not be able to tell, but if your eye will eventually tell that things aren't, I don't know. I just think we like the messiness of being human. And I think AI will do its best to replicate that, but nothing will be as messy as an actual human. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
the messiness is what will hold us together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, because there's images and videos that are nearly indistinguishable. I'm like, if
Yeah.
that's AI, like I can't tell. But it's usually, I mean, to your point, like there's something wrong with it. There's imperfections, and the AI, the person has like 9 fingers and, you know.
And that's, you know, it's moving very fast.
Yeah.
Right. And that stuff is getting less and less, and the other thing they talk about with AI, and I don't know if you've heard this term, is that it hallucinates,
Hmm.
because AI always wants to answer. And if it doesn't have an answer, it's going to come up with an answer.
Hmm.
So it starts to so that's why you always have to fact check your AI, right? That it's not, you would think AI, oh, well, this is going to be always
Hmm.
factually accurate. And that's not the case. Um, so yeah, it is. How do you use it? Where is it going? What will we accept as it replaces things? And in the creative space, again, that's the challenge, right? How do you
Hmm.
stand out in a world where AI can write a commercial that's pretty okay, right? It's like it's a commercial for this nasal flu shot or whatever. It's like a thing that doesn't really need a lot of creativity. You go like make it a little bit funny. It would come up with a bunch of jokes. They probably wouldn't be that great, but they're probably good enough for a low budget local commercial, right? But are we going to accept, like, it'd be interesting if that movie, what is Electric, what is it called again?
Electric State.
Electric State, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be interesting if it had been written by AI. It would almost be celebrated by the creative community, because it'd be like, see, you made this movie. It's horrible what they so, but humans made it. And you're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
think
yeah,
that's kind of the fun part of AI is that it's going to raise the floor of so many terrible movies. Like you'll really have to like go out of your way to like make a bad movie in the future just because they'll have it trained on so many screenplays and story structure, and they'll be like, you really need to have something for the characters to do in the third act.
right. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if we go back and look at all the things we've enjoyed over the years in our lives, whether, like often you go back and you watch a movie, I have friends that just love Goonies and like,
Hmm.
I'm not one of those people. I went back and watch it. It's not good. Um,
Yeah.
but it's very human, right? It's very like
Well, it's
flawed.
nostalgic. We all saw it when we were
Yeah.
like 5. I don't even
Right.
remember it.
Yeah. Yeah. You popped in the VHS. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think AI will be able to do kind of traditional popcorn movies. It can help you really craft one very
Hmm.
quickly. And I just wonder, back to your question earlier, is like, will the studios just want to work with AI? And I think the answer ultimately is no, because they're going to want a shepherd. They're going to want to talk to somebody that can give them feedback. And the people that can do that, even if they're, instead of having a writer's room, they have AI, but they're the showrunner, that connection is going to be the shepherd that they trust, right? Whereas
Hmm.
they go like, well, can you push the button on AI this way or that way? Because at the end of the day, left alone, AI, yeah, eventually you can go like, read every script ever, give me a great detective story. And it probably will, right? But someone has to
Yeah.
read it, give it notes,
Hmm.
figure out what they like about it, what they don't, where do they want to push and where do they want to pull. That
Hmm.
studio executive is not going to be that person.
Hmm.
They're going to want a
Yes.
human to be that connection.
Yeah. There will need to be someone with taste who wants something working with the AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to talk about how marketing fits in with your, focus and career. Like, a lot of my friends in LA, I have some dear friends in LA, we don't do a lot of video marketing. We did a lot pre-COVID, but COVID, killed it because it's like I can't come to you in person because we're legally not allowed. But
Correct.
now a lot of my, friends and colleagues, they're just, there's not a lot of work in
Yes.
LA for, the below the line people. So I've been trying to, whenever I meet a prospect who could use a video, I'm like, hey, do you want a commercial video? We can, give you an awesome one. I got a stable of incredible film workers that we can work. And it sounds like, to some extent, maybe I'm just spitballing here, but when the creative work wasn't available, you pivoted to marketing. Would that be an accurate
Yes.
assessment? Okay,
That is correct. Yes.
awesome. And is that do you recommend that for, any creatives listening? And if so, how'd you do that?
Yeah. Well, still, to be fully transparent, still a work in progress, but so far so good, right? It's a small startup business. And so you're kind of, there's a lot of business development and sales calls and lead generation. It's Glengarry, Glen Ross, but here in my own place, I don't have anybody to yell at about always be closing. Um, yeah, I think, for me, I would say this to anybody, is like, yeah, find what you're willing to do that you love enough to kind of go after it, right? So like if you don't like talking to people, if you're an editor and you're like, I like to be in my bay and I don't really like talking to people and I don't really like getting notes, like you probably shouldn't go into marketing by yourself. But now if you have somebody else who's like, hey, I love talking to people, then maybe you can collaborate and find a way, because there's a business to it, right? There's the sales, business development, sale leads, all of these things. They
Mm-hmm.
are just a business thing. They have nothing to do with creative or the video
Mm-hmm.
production side of it. And then once you get that client, that's where you think about, what do I like to do that I'm really good at that will keep these people happy, that I will be happy with the work and will generate more work, you know? So for me, I had already done marketing in New York, and it was cool and interactive. It was animated and all of this stuff, but it was very traditional marketing, right? Coca-Cola comes to you and says, hey, we want to do something with the polar bears. What are some ideas you could do around the polar bears? They already have the brand. It's, I'm not inventing the Coca-Cola polar bears. I don't, it's their IP. I'm just helping them tell another story.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back to it now, coming at it from the video side, it's like, why would you use me versus this DP who has shot the coolest commercials and it visually looks like this? And so like my pitch is, as a showrunner is like, the reason you want me is because what I do is I tell stories with real people. And that's what you are. And that's what is working in this space with TikTok, with Instagram, with brands, with companies is the real connection, right? So we'll get you that I'll get you that DP. You're gonna get that, but you have to back up. You can't just go like, shoot me a cool video. It's like, well, what's it about? Who's representing you? What are you trying to say? And how are you going to say it? That's going to make you look like the expert, or is going to bring out some humor because you want people to know. Because I just finished a commercial and they were like, well, we want people to know that we're a fun company. We're known for this, but we want to be less serious. I was like, great. We'll. So I think the reason I am in it and I'm enjoying it is because I see it as an extension of working in unscripted TV, where I'm doing these interviews with real people who've just gone through an experience. And now I just put a different filter and a different prism on that, right? So you're going like,
Mm-hmm.
great, you're a CEO, you want to have a fundraising video. We can shoot that. It's going to look great. It's going to look, but let me help you get that story out in a way that's going to really connect to your ideal audience, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what, um, when you're working with a brand or a client and they have a short story to tell, they have maybe a longer story to tell with their fundraiser or charity, like how do you help them to tell the best version of their story?
Yeah. First it's like, seems like for me, maybe it's simple, maybe it's not simple, right? Is really just listening, right? Is like, getting them, the first thing is like giving them confidence,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because often I meet with people and they're like, going like, well, I know I really need to do this. Our website is very static. We just have photos. I know we need to be doing video. I know that I should be the face of my company because I have these core beliefs, but and I don't know that I want to be on camera, and I don't know if I really know what I'm talking about. It's like, well, tell me what your company stands for. Like, they inevitably, if you give them the confidence, they have the story to tell. And then you kind of, it's almost like active listening of going, if I give them confident, they're going to tell the story versus when I go to a brand and they're like, hey, we're launching this new product. Let's come up with some fun ways to launch it. Then you're in the idea phase, right? You're like, oh, it could be anything. But with a company, especially uh brand videos for an existing company with humans, you're like, you guys have this stuff. I'm gonna take the stuff you say and distill it down to its core essence and make it really compelling. So it it's a different way of coming at something when you're dealing with established companies and especially CEOs and people that know exactly what they're doing. They're shy or they're not. Is it give them back their confidence that that they have in other aspects, and say, bring that confidence over here, and we'll help you tell it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, so I love commercials. I don't love annoying or boring commercials, but
Sure.
there's some commercials that I quote as much as I quote The Simpsons or It's Always Sunny. There was uh, I think it was Geico. They have some of the best commercials.
Yes.
The guy, he called someone collect, and he goes, "A call from we had a baby eats a boy," and it was just to scam the phone company to tell his parents they had a boy, and that's just a genius short film in my mind. And I love those commercials, and I put them on the same level as the cinema that I worship. Um, to the extent that you've worked with brands and made sort of commercials in that realm, like what makes a good commercial in your mind?
Yeah, it's like such, it's efficiency of comedy. I mean, often, like, there's like very famous Apple commercial. There are like really beautiful, compelling videos that, it's the cinema of them in
Hmm.
60 seconds where you're watching a commercial, like, why am I tearing up? Right? A kid hearing for the first time, you're like, yeah, I'm not crying, you're crying. The military vets meet, the dogs see them all of that stuff. You're like, oh, you break my heart. But yeah, in the sense of comedy, like what you're talking about, it's really, it, it's the constant refining. You have to find the thing that you want to go for and refine it and refine it. And like, how small can I make it to hit it? You have 30 seconds, you have 60 seconds. There's no room for fat. And then the other part is, you need a company or a brand that wants to play there, because Geico, Progressive, like State Farm, not so much. Like Jake from State Farm, it's a little bit funny, but it is a little bit more corporate. Like Geico and Progressive have really leaned into, the whole Progressive is like all these people from the groundlings are the people in the commercials, right? And so they've leaned into that voice so you can kind of hone it over time. Like it's rare to get a one-off commercial that's hilarious. A lot of the commercials that are really funny is that that brand has gone, we're this brand, this is how we're funny. It's got to be so specific, even though that call commercial could be for any brand, right? You could do that for anything that needs a funny beat. It does work with Geico because like, oh, I'm going to watch their commercials. I'm going to laugh. It's going to have nothing to do with insurance, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, it's partnership. It's both being able to write very, very tight comedy. It's like writing a joke for stand up and having a brand partner that, is good to collaborate with. Because so often they have a lot of rules that they should have, right? They're like, well, we're Nike. We don't want people to think of us as funny shoes. You're like, well, that's fair. So you have to kind of work with what is that's the fine line is like that's why a lot of commercials aren't funny is because that brand has so many rules as to what can and cannot represent them, which again is fair. I don't think it's wrong for them to have that, but that makes it harder because now the comedy can only live in that small space in between all of the strategy.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
So, as far as like finding this work, did you partner up with someone? Does like a commercial production house hire you, outsource to you? How does one in the creative field find these, marketing jobs?
Yeah. So yeah, I started this with I have an editor who I've done countless reality shows with who really kind of comes in and makes a sizzle reel to sell the show, and then he finds the format of the show that becomes what the show becomes forever.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, well, this is we have a really great creative partnership, and if I can bring in the work and I can direct and write, and to your point earlier, uh, we kind of everybody in LA is looking for work. So I have a vast network of if I need an extra writer. or if I need an extra producer on set, or if I need a director or a cinematographer or multiple editors. Like there's so many people in this town that are immensely talented that aren't working right now. So like for the first time in my life, it's really, I'm more in sales mode than I've ever been. I'm like, if I can land these deals, then I have people that need the work anyways. I can like kind of start to bridge this gap in this town between superbly talented people and clients who didn't even know they could afford them. And that's kind of what I'm trying to make the messaging in a more subtle way, because obviously that doesn't really fly, but it's kind of like you can have amazing work at a budget that you can't believe you can afford, you know? And so, yeah, it's just the two of us and we're just knocking down doors and also, talking to relationships we've had forever that have known we've been in the unscripted side, didn't even know like we could do this kind of work for them, whether they own a restaurant or a manufacturing facility.
Awesome. What does knocking down doors mean? Are you just sending emails to, are they cold emails? Are they previous relationships?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So trying on the different, there's some different things that people are doing that I have done multiple things. So there's different pieces of software you can kind of set up to cold email. It's kind of like it has a back end and you can kind of go through and look for CEOs and people like this and curate a list and then put it into an automated system. I've done them very little.
Apollo or LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Yeah, exactly. Apollo. And then more on the LinkedIn side, there's Waylaxy, which Waylaxy basically does the similar thing, but only with LinkedIn. You kind of use your Sales Navigator, you curate it, and it kind of says, hey, I want to connect, and it kind of starts to make these connections. And then, yes, it's a lot of old school reconnecting with people that I've known in a new way, going like, hey, I've started this business. We're doing this over here. So, and then just announcing that creates another connection because people might see it, right? It's kind of, now I'm in the social media marketing aspect of what is my LinkedIn saying? What is my, even my Instagram and Facebook saying? How do I pull people from my regular Facebook to my company Facebook, even though that's, it's just more of like, hey, it's a constant announcement. So if somebody's going through their day and they might be at a lunch with someone else, they say, I really wish I could find some videos. Oh my God, I just saw my friend Jim is doing that. It's kind of, that's the long game. The short game is more Apollo and Waylaxy and a little bit of Facebook ads. And then there's these other things which I haven't really launched that it's not a trade secret, so anybody could do it, right? Is posting things on your LinkedIn and your social that are called like lead magnets, where it's like, hey, here are the 5 things I've learned from reality TV that anybody can use to tell their story for their company. Want to watch my free video? Check it out, right? And so anybody that has an offer of a skill that could be valuable, you kind of make this magnet that goes, oh, well, what are those 5 things, Jim? And then they watch the video and hopefully a percentage of them go, I want to talk to Jim further because maybe he could help me do something. That's another thing. I haven't launched that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, not a trade secret. Anybody can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, but before we go full creative,
yeah,
for any of our listeners who are financial advisors or business owners, and maybe they just want to start making more of their own content, how can they tell their own story better? A lot of my father was a financial advisor, and I consider myself a writer foundationally, and my dad was like, I was functionally illiterate. He's like, I chose finance because they wouldn't make me write any papers. And I was like, okay, it makes sense. So, maybe that skill doesn't come as naturally to certain groups as others. Are there any tips or tricks where you can just like better convey your own story to, better connect with your ideal customer that you want to work with?
Yeah. The one thing that I kind of, and I'd like to hear, I'm going to hear what you say to this, that I think is really simple and seems, it's like a no-brainer that people just don't consider, which is, so let's say I'm a financial advisor and I work in an office with like 8 other people, right? Or I'm a dentist and I have a practice and I have all these people and I'm like, what is my voice? What is my voice? Is It's a dumb thing. It doesn't feel super comfortable. Just ask everybody, go like, hey, is there a story that I tell that you find compelling? Is there things that I've shared with you that you as my team go like, I love the story of when you started out in Indiana and you did X, Y, and Z, and that's how you figured out that pillar of what you think of as the best financial advice. Or I love how you've broken this down to 4 things. And you always say, like, are you doing the 4 things? And you kind of can get reflection from other humans back to you. What's working already, and start there instead, because like your dad staring at a blank sheet of paper going like, what do I want to say? Is so intimidating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing, instead of starting with a blank piece of paper, there's so much good now, AI, or, there's a thing I have called Otter AI, and I just record it and then it gives me a really good transcript.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could take that transcript, I could throw it in ChatGPT and say, like, make this into talking points. I could do all of the things without ever typing. Because again, for someone who's not a writer, to sit at a blank screen or to go, what am I saying? But if you hear, like, people are auditory, like when I say these things, I like it. So my thing is always like, start with the people that know your story, that find you convincing, or come to you for advice. Ask them what is the advice that they like, that they've taken from you. And you might be fascinated to find out there's 30 things already just sitting there that everybody's going, oh, and you gave me this advice and this advice and this. And you're like, oh, I have a whole story I could start with right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. I, when we're making videos for clients, or
Sure.
starting them podcasts, or deciding what their webinar is going to be focused on, I literally just ask questions until I can't think of any more questions. And then I look at my notes and I go, oh my God, there's like 20 gold mines, right?
That's right.
There's so many things we can use to create content.
Right. And that's why it's easier with a partner, because they can just
Yeah.
ask the questions. And so a business owner is like, I don't want to have to go ask my team all of these questions, But for the people that do, there is a way that without partnering with me or anybody like me, you can start getting way better at I'll call it like at your TED talk, right? It's like, just start asking questions. If you don't have somebody else to ask you the questions, you ask the questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. And how long have you been in LA? Are you from there?
Yeah.
Or?
So I've been here. No, I've been here a long time. So I came out in 2002.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
It's the longest I've ever lived anywhere. Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of things, at least 2 writer strikes that I
Yeah.
know of, right? Um, like you have far more perspective than me or most of the people I associate with. Like, how have we encountered industries this brutal before, and shall we overcome?
Yeah. It's a great question. Yeah, it's like I said before, it's an unprecedented time with so much disruption, right? Especially
Mhm.
for somebody trying to break in, or had a show that went away and is trying to find the next show. And at the same time, what's interesting, right? And it's zero judgment, there's now more opportunity than ever for content. So you mentioned earlier, when you were talking about funny commercials, you mentioned It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I was on that show for 1 season as their script supervisor. And
Amazing.
yeah, amazing. And every time I can ever talk about that show, it's like, I don't really like whatever for me, because obviously it's an amazing, hilarious show.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I ever talk to anybody about it, I go like, those guys are the best guys. Like, you get in the business and you're like, that person's kind of ridiculous. Those three guys are the smartest at what they do comically, of knowing who they are and why they're funny, treating their team with respect, holding it's such a crazy, silly show, so it's weird to say this, but they really hold down their core beliefs and why they're funny, right? Even though what they're doing is insanity. So I love those guys. I ran into Rob years and years later working on a show. He remembered me, super lovely, but to the point of like, there's more opportunity, right? So they have that mothership they're always going to hold on to. They're like, we want to do this forever until it's not fun anymore. And it's always fun for them. They now have a podcast, right? So now not only are they doing this, but they have a podcast. And then Rob is doing Welcome to Wrexham, right? And then he's also doing Mystic Quest. And he's all, Charlie's always been off in the movies. Like he was the movie star, right? And, so they all are off doing other stuff. And Dee is, not Dee, I forget her name. Oh, Caitlin is off. She's got another TV show, and they were always like, where's her show? Right. Because she's really, really funny. But I think in this disruption, while it's hard on the people around that, like Conan O'Brien left his show. And now not only does he have a podcast, he has like a podcast company. Right. And so, there are more opportunities. They're just different. They're harder to come by for new people. So you really have to think of it as, where is the next piece? Like, should I be making, like, here I am talking to you on a podcast. Like, should I be making a podcast? Should I be doing short form content? If I'm in my 20s, should I be launching a bunch of stuff on TikTok instead of trying to get, and I'm not saying don't write scripts. I'm not saying don't try to get in the writer's room, because those jobs do still exist. Keep that as part of it, but don't be beholden to the idea of like, there's only one door that I can go through, right? Which in the 80s, 90s, maybe even early 2000s, it was, once the internet started, doors started to open in other places. And now there's even more doors. Can you make a living at it? Can you, like those are, now you have these own, because now you're not really getting the massive amount of money from a television network for a full season of TV. But if you're owning all of the content and you get all of the revenue, sure, it's probably not exactly the same, but it's something.
Yeah, there's that blog post by I want to say his name's Charlie Kelly, but that's not right. It's called a thousand true Kevin Kelly, 1,000 true fans. It's sort of the reverse engineer 6 figures from a creative perspective.
Sure.
All you need is 1,000 fans to pay you over the course of each year, $100 each, and you make 100K a year from your creative pursuits. I mean, obviously, to live in LA, you need more than that at this point.
Right. But if you're, you got roommates and you're in your 20s and you're pulling 100K even in LA, it's like, all right, well, I can live on. Like, you're not, you can't be like, well, I'm buying that mansion in Beverly. That's not happening. Yeah, but that's a great point, right? It's kind of like, I just need this. If I have this, and the great example, obviously, that everybody talks about right now is Mr. Beast, right? He started something on YouTube as a nobody with these videos, and he was really coming at it from, which is interesting. He was coming at it from a combination of content and analytics. There was this constant testing of like, what's the right thumbnail? What's the right tagline? What's the right this? What is the right length? Like he was constantly means testing it to find those 100 people that became hundreds of thousands of millions of people.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably not unlike what it would have been like to come here in the 70s or 80s and having to figure out, like you had to figure out, how do I get a camera for cheap? How do I get film for cheap? You had to not only think about your creative, but you had to figure out things to make, to go shoot your short film that was going to be your calling card, or to go shoot your feature, whatever you do. Like, I got to get my dad's going to take a mortgage on his house. So it's the same muscle we all have to use right now. Is we can't just be like, well, I want to create something here. I created it. Who's going to give me money? You have to think about, if I create this, what are my avenues to getting revenue? Because the barrier to having the equipment, the barrier to having an is so low from the film days, right? We all walk around with a camera that's 4K, right? That does a zoom, and we all walk around with really easy to understand editing software. So it's, that barrier has gone down, but other barriers have gone up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have gone well over time. Are
sorry.
you okay to go a little? No, it's my fault. I totally lost track of time. Are you okay to go just a little bit longer?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I love going to the movie theater. They love it here in Spain, and it's like much cheaper to go as well. A beer at the movie theater is like $2.
Oh, so
it's amazing. Yeah. My wife gets like 3 every time we go. And tickets are like €8. If you go on a Monday, they're €4. And tons of people every screening. They have them in the original audio. They call it Vose. I love going to the theater. That's like my church. Like I feel like reborn. A great film, reinvigorates my zest for life, and I'm like, life's pretty freaking sweet. What is your assessment of the future of movie theaters, and will they survive for my children to enjoy, my hypothetical children?
Yeah, that's it. Yes, that's interesting, right? Because I have a 15-year-old, and when I get him to the theater, he enjoys it. But getting there, even if he's like, oh, I want to see that movie. We want to see that movie. Let's go see. Oh, not tonight. Oh, no. Like, because that computer in front of him is so addictive, right? He's into the video game world, and the kid, even the younger kids with their YouTube habits, right? They're like, I'm curating my cinema at home, and I could change it. So the idea of sitting and watching one thing for that amount of time is so hard for them. So it is, I'm scared generationally of like kind of convincing people, to go. But there'll be times I go and it's a pretty full theater, and so that gives me hope. There's one not too far from my house that survived COVID, and we're kind of in like a whatever area. There's oddly not a lot of movie theaters in the valley, in the central valley. Like, they're out in Burbank, or they're out in Woodland Hills. There's not a lot in the middle. But it seems to be doing really well, and I go in there and it's pretty decent, so I'm hopeful. I wonder if like there's a version in my mind. This is just, if we bring back some of those dollar cinemas that have gone away, like bringing in, like, to your point of like having reasonable cinema that shows the Goonies, shows other things, and it's about going back to that experience, right? Because that experience is so unlike being at home. And again, there is no room for distraction. So even when I'm at home watching something I really want to watch, this isn't far away. But when I'm in a movie theater, I'm watching that movie. And I think, I also just saw a play, right? I think like this idea of AI and the communal experience of being with other humans, I'm hopeful that theaters will survive, because people are going to want, even though we're sitting next to them, we're not necessarily talking, we're laughing together at that movie. We're having the shared experience. Yeah. I think that's going to have more value as time goes on instead of less value. I can't predict the future, but my hope is that people start to see that, right? With the reemergence here in LA of bowling alleys, right? Like, there's things where people are going like, I want to get out. I want to do stuff with other people. I want it to be fun. And I think cinema is going to be that.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think the Netflix's quarterly profits are blinding them from that. And I think if Electric State like came out in theaters and you saw it with a bunch of other people, its flaws would not have been as glaring. And I'm a huge, obviously, David Fincher fan. I'm a huge
Oh,
Christopher
yeah.
Nolan fan. They
Sure.
had two movies that both had around the same budget come out around the same time. The Killer came out on Netflix, and Oppenheimer came out. They were within, I don't know, 6 or 9 months of each other.
Yeah.
Both fantastic movies. No, I have not heard anyone talk about The Killer since I saw it. Like it just they spent 150 million bucks on it. It was on Netflix. Maybe some other people watched it, but I don't see it listed anywhere on the forums. I talk about movies on. No one's talking about it on YouTube. And like Oppenheimer was like a tide change for movies. And they're both fantastic films. But one was in theaters and one was on Netflix.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to turn down $150 million to make The Killer when the budget from a studio that's going to release it theatrically is 30, right? So it's like, yeah, because you're like, why would Fincher do that? And some people are pushing back and go like, I need a theatrical release, and Netflix is saying we're
Mhm.
not doing that anymore. But they do have such good budgets, and you're like, well, I think this needs to be, The Killer had like really good locations, and it was international, and it had that movement, so. But that's a great point. And I think you think of the movies that came out during COVID that just aired, right? Didn't really get a theatrical release, and they don't live on the same level. So yeah, that's a great point.
Thanks. I've had that like stewing inside me. I'm like David, what are you doing, man? Like
Yeah.
this movie was amazing.
Yeah. Really good, right? And yeah, in a genre that people really enjoy, you know?
Yeah. That like it was I watched it on my, 50, 60-inch TV, whatever.
Right.
Amazing TV, the best home experience you can have. And it was like, it's like eating at McDonald's versus like a steakhouse. It was just like you're serving me this like beautiful ribeye between like a crappy bun.
Yeah. I mean, even the best set. Yeah. I mean, what was always great about a really good, you went to a friend that had a good cinema setup in their house. It's like, oh, this is cool because I'm
Mhm.
in their house watching this, but it always pales in comparison to sitting in a movie theater. And I think there's so many levels to that. And I think you'll never find a comedy as good as in a cinema because the laughter of others makes you laugh. Like you're not like in your house. It just is so rare.
Yeah. Oh, we call that the Sundance effect. Like we'll go to Sundance and we'll see a movie and we'll cry and laugh and just like be moved,
Yeah.
to change our lives. We'll be like, that was the most incredible film I've ever seen in my whole life. And then you'll see it 12 months later on HBO and you're like, oh, that was like 7 out of 10 tops, maybe even worse.
Yes. You're told like here you are with the most prestigious film people on the planet watching films that have been curated to be the best. So like you're walking in and you go like, I'm about to see a great film. And
Mhm.
everybody around here loves cinema. So this must be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. The Sundance effect.
Sundance effect, yeah. You always
Yeah.
have to see it again to make sure. And some do hold up. Like there are definitely great movies coming out of there.
Is the
Awesome.
reverse of that the Netflix effect where you basically like, meh, I don't need to see that again.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. No, that's a great point. And I watched it on Netflix. It was like a 7 out of 10. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that changed my life in theaters.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, two more questions and I will set you free. Are you working on anything creatively right now that you're excited about?
I am working on developing with a couple brands some things that would be really fun to work on that I think that are at the smaller scale, but would kind of bring some content to people who really need it, which I find I love, right? So it's like, oh, this would be a really fun thing to crack, really small. It's like a company with a bunch of smaller clients. It's like, oh, if we can make this work, this would be really kind of fun as an ongoing project for them to kind of have access to video. And then just for fun, I'm writing a 1 hour dramedy with a friend who's a professor, a film writer at SCAD. And so, yeah, we're writing a 1 hour together. And that's just been fun as a creative outlet to write again. So I'm enjoying that.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, it's I was talking to a naturopathic doctor today about my anxiety. He was like recommending some supplements for it.
Sure.
And he was like, "How often are you like creatively expressing yourself?" And I was like, "Well, not too often these days." And he's like, "You need to do that. That will help." And I'm like, "Yeah, good point."
It's true, right? It's diet, exercise, and an outlet, right? You need to have that
Yeah.
outlet of where you're like,
Yeah.
I feel free. I feel creative, especially if that's a core part of you.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Okay, final question for you. It's an
Okay.
open-ended question. You can take it in
Okay.
any direction that you like. And the question is, what are you working towards?
That is a good open-ended question. Yeah, when I started this, when I kind of like made this pivot, uh, is this, I'm making this up, but it feels right, is I'm looking for ownership, right? And when I say that, sure, I mean, I want to own this company and have it be successful. But the other way I mean it is right now, as we've talked about on this podcast, the town is in turmoil. Opportunities are, here and there, and they pop up, and you go, oh, I talked to that person. Like, oh yeah, we ran out of funding. Like everything is just feels like the earth is unsettled underneath us. And so I want to have ownership of what I'm doing in the world, both professionally and creatively, like we've talked about, and just as a human, and to go like get up every day and go like, I own what it is that I'm going to try to tackle, and if it succeeds or if it fails, it's because of my work, not because the town did this or there's some sort of outside influence. So, um, I've had a really great run over 12 years of just going from one unscripted show to another and going from associate story producer to showrunner and just being like, this is great, this is great, this is great. And as that kind of went away, I owned that in a way because I was doing the work as an owner, but I was always given those opportunities. So like what I'm looking for is just really owning what I'm doing in this world, both creatively and professionally. And I think that
Mhm.
will all fall into my regular life as well.
Mm. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
That's that is a worthy pursuit, my friend.
Thank you.
Where can my audience find out more about you and everything you're working on?
Yeah, they could check me out at LinkedIn, Jim Dubensky, and I'm going to be launching we're launching a new website for our business, and it's going to be, the company's is called Get Real Content. And you could check us out on Instagram and Facebook at getrealcontent.com. And the website will be launching shortly.
Awesome, awesome. We will link to all that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Jim.
All right. Appreciate it. It was great catching up and talking more.
Yeah. I could nerd out with you for hours, man. I think
it's fun. Yeah,
we're cut from the same cloth, so we really appreciate your time, man. This was awesome.
of course.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in, and keep on growing out there, everybody.